another episode of Awaken Living with Consciousness. This is a show that features awakened masters, teachers, and individuals who are living in our midst. This show features their stories, their process, their journeys, their life mission and work, as well as all the lessons and insights they have learned in the process. My name is May Sarah Carpio, and I am a divine soul connector. My intention is to connect all those people seeking guidance, healing, growth, and transformation to those who can assist you in your awakening journey. I hope that through this show, you will be able to recognize and remember your healer or teacher or those souls that who will be assisting you in your process. Today's guest is so used to interviewing people on camera. Today, we will be the ones interviewing her. The CNN news anchor and a beloved Kabbalah teacher and mentor, Miss Ria Trillo. Welcome, teacher Ria.
All right, thanks, May. And hi to everybody who's watching. Okay, what is Kabbalah? Kabbalah, basically, in very simple terms, it's a universal spiritual wisdom. You know, you might see some books in the bookstore and it's filed under New Age, but that's a misnomer. It's actually very, very old age. The wisdom of Kabbalah is about 5,000 years old. And what it is, it's a body of wisdom that explains the spiritual laws of the universe, right? The spiritual laws of the universe are, as the name indicates, universal. So no matter where you're from, how old you are, your religion, your race, your background, the spiritual laws of the universe apply to everyone in the same way that physical laws of the universe, like gravity, apply to everyone, right? You can't say, well, I'm Filipino, therefore gravity doesn't apply to me. I don't believe in that, right? I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but spiritually it's the same thing. You know, some people might say, well, no, I don't really believe in karma. And karma, or, you know, in Kabbalah, we call it tikkun, that whether or not you believe in it applies to everyone. So that's what Kabbalah teaches us. It teaches us all the different rules, concepts, principles, energies at play in the universe. So when we become familiar with these and have a really true, deep understanding of them, we can make better decisions in our lives. We can see difficult, challenging situations in a different light and realize that we actually have the ability, we are empowered to deal with these things and overcome them. That's what Kabbalah is. Now you ask, like, what can you expect from Kabbalah? For me, what surprised me about Kabbalah, and certainly what attracted me to it right away, was that it is such a practical wisdom. It is very profound, but at the same time, it's very accessible. It's not something so deep and abstract that's inspiring and it just hangs in the air, then you can't do anything with it. Yes, it is inspiring. It is enlightening, but it's something that you can draw down. And from every Kabbalah class, you go home and you're able to use this, a particular principle, a particular tool that is applicable in practically any situation in our lives. And that's what you can expect from this wisdom, especially the way we teach it in the Kabbalah Center. It is very, very practical.
Yes, I have a first-hand experience on that. And Kabbalah also helped me a lot, especially through my darkest days and nights, darkest periods of my life. And there is this, like, for those people who haven't really encountered Kabbalah, and there is always this popular question, is it a religion or what is it? Is it a religion? Some people say, like, when there's a strange term, you know, they call it a cult, or what is it in essence?
Right. Is Kabbalah a religion? No, it's not, right? But any spiritual practice can become religious. What do I mean by that? For me, something becomes religious if we do it, we perform it, we say things by rote. We say things because everyone else is doing it. We say it because that's what they said we should say or said we should do, right? That's being religious and robotic, okay? To be spiritual means we have consciousness behind everything that we do, right? I'm applying this principle because I know this is how the energy works and I know this is what's going to happen if I use this tool, right? not just because they said so, right? And Kabbalah is not a religion. How do I know that? It's because if you come to the Kabbalah Center, you have students from all different religions and spiritual belief systems who come to study this. And, you know, a lot of them stay with whatever religious background they're from. Others leave it. Others, you know, like everybody has a different path. For me personally, I was born and raised Catholic, and I still consider myself a Catholic. I do go to Mass on most Sundays. And Kabbalah has really helped me understand a lot of the things that the religion I was born into was trying to teach me, and I wasn't getting it, right? But when you study Kabbalah, you understand, oh, okay, now I know why they do this in the church, right? Now I understand this teaching more deeply, and more importantly, I see how I can use that in my life.
That's very interesting. Can you share us more about how like Kabbalah benefited your life in what aspects?
Wow. Like how much time do you have? Kabbalah today informs every aspect of my life, basically. But let's just say before Kabbalah, I had a very strong sense of entitlement. I felt like the world, the universe, my parents, my husband owed me a whole lot of things that they weren't giving me. And what happens if a person is entitled? They're usually pretty angry. If they're not angry outside, they're angry inside, right? And I sort of felt that way. I couldn't understand why in my life I had gotten pretty much everything I asked for, right? I married my college sweetheart. We had a really cute baby. My career was going well. His career was going well. Like, it looked amazing on paper. But I felt like something was missing. And then I felt bad that I felt that something was missing because I got everything that I asked for. But, you know, Kabbalah helped me realize that certain people, you know, exist in our life to help us through our spiritual journey. So, you know, maybe your spouse or your sibling or your business partner really pushes your buttons. And normally we think like, I wish they would change. I wish it would be different. I wish I had a different partner. I wish I had a different parent or a different spouse, right? But when you come to study Kabbalah, you build a spiritual understanding and you see, well, okay, they push my buttons. They bring this certain thing out in me, but it's really to test me, to help me overcome something so that I can be the better version of myself, right? So let's say, you know, I have a business partner who's always putting me down, right? Should I get a new business partner? Maybe yes, maybe no. But in that moment, maybe that business partner is pushing me to stand up for myself. Maybe that business partner is giving me an opportunity to really examine how much I value myself, if I value myself at all. And maybe their purpose in my life at this point is to help me gain a better appreciation of myself, right? And see my gifts and not allow myself to be put down, right? There's nothing spiritual about being a doormat, right? We take feedback, but we do something with it.
Yes, and that's, I think, what I appreciate about Kabbalah. You're immersed in this world, but it's how you manage it. Like if somebody's triggering you, it's how you process and manage it and turn it to something spiritual. So that's a very good and amazing insight, Sharia. What really say to yourself, I want to be a Kabbalah teacher?
Well, I certainly didn't grow up wanting to be a Kabbalah teacher. I didn't even know what Kabbalah was, you know, until I was probably like in my late 20s. I don't know when there was an exact moment that I said I wanted to be a Kabbalah teacher. Sometimes I can't even believe that I have the merit to teach this wisdom. But it started off because I really wanted to bring the children's program to the Philippines. So the Kabbalah Center has a children's program called Spirituality for Kids. We call it SFK. And at the time, we didn't have it here in the Philippines. And I really wanted to bring it, because my eldest daughter was growing up, and I really wanted her to have a framework, to have an understanding of how the world works, and to be able to make good decisions for herself, and to understand the importance of sharing. And SFK is like the perfect program for that. So that was the first time I sort of asked to teach. And so, then I was trained by one of the SFK teachers in London, and then we were able to bring it here. And then on top of that, I was mentoring students, during our Kabbalah courses. When you take the foundations course, which is called The Power of Kabbalah 1 or Kabbalah 1, you always have a mentor, and I was mentoring people as well. And then after maybe about 10 years of being a student, my teacher asked me, she's like, I think it's time for you to teach. Do you want to teach? And I was just like, wow. I mean, I was so humbled by it. And I was like, I want to do it, but I don't know if I can. And she's like, of course you can, because it's not just, again, an academic, intellectual understanding of the wisdom. It's to be able to teach it, you have to live it in your life, right? Now, do I live it absolutely perfectly? No, just ask the people in my house. But the idea is it's something you really imbibe and as much as possible have in your consciousness all the time. And you need to have experienced your own transformations, right? It can't just be because I studied all these books, I did all the courses, boom, I'm ready to be a teacher.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And I would like to ask more, if you could give us an example of what transformation in Kabbalah is, as you mentioned, because I'm sure there are a lot of people are there who are seeking different ways and different paths. When a person learns Kabbalah, what is somehow a general picture of what a processing or transformation or those things? Yeah.
Right. Okay. So basically, what does a transformation look like, right? If somebody studies Kabbalah and they experience a personal transformation, what does it look like? So we had a student, who worked a corporate job, very no nonsense, very smart, a very good leader, but apparently very impatient and very snappish with her team. And then she started to study Kabbalah, right? And she understood the principle of restriction. So in a nutshell, the principle of restriction is when we are able to withhold our knee-jerk reactions, right? Usually a very good example of a knee-jerk reaction is getting mad, right? How do you know it's a knee-jerk reaction? It requires no effort, right? So if somebody blows their top, it's not like, I have to try really hard to get angry and blow my top. It just happens, right? Comes out of nowhere with no effort at all. So the student started studying Kabbalah, and she understood that whenever we fail to restrict, we lose so much spiritual energy, right? And spiritually, we add on another layer of negativity, right? If we add on another layer of negativity, what does it mean, right? I get cut off from my clarity. I get cut off from my joy, from my fulfillment, from my happiness, from protection, from health, right? So she started to understand this. So then she was able more and more to restrict her anger. And of course, one place she applied this was in the office. And her team really started to see the change in her. And they would tell her, wow, you're so different. Like, what happened? Why are you so different? You handle things so differently now. You speak differently. And, she happily shared with them. She's like, I think my study of Kabbalah has really helped me a lot. So they were all amazed. And then she brought them to the next Kabbalah 1, and a whole bunch of them became students as well.
Amazing. Yes. And aside from just a restriction is one of those things that really brings forth a lot of changes, especially to relating with your environment, not only with people, but also with situations. And another principle that I really love about Kabbalah is is about how to work more on increasing your light by identifying your ego. Can you share to us more about that.
Yeah. So that's probably my favorite thing to talk about in Kabbalah is like the ego, right? So it's not so much like the psychological ego that we studied, let's say in college, right? But when you speak of ego in the realm of Kabbalah, what we're referring to is the evil inclination, the opposing force, the opponent. It's called many different things, but you know, if you want to sort of think back to some movies where you have an angel and a devil on your shoulder, one's telling you to do good, one's telling you to do bad. The opponent is the one on your shoulder that's telling you to do bad, right? And the interesting thing is everybody's ego is different, right? Everybody's ego is completely unique as our fingerprints, right? And the ego is also very smart. So sometimes we don't even realize it's the ego telling us to do something, right? Because, you know, you could say something, oh, you should give this person a gift. It's the right thing to do. It's the generous thing to do. Yeah, on the front of that, it looks very nice. And the ego is telling you to do that. Why? Because there's something you want in return. You're not really giving selflessly. You're giving because you have an agenda. Right? So the ego is very, very tricky that way, which is why a lot of our spiritual work is being able to identify that ego, right? What is the ego telling me? And there's only one person in the world who can hear my ego, and that's me, right? And there's only one person in the world who can hear your ego, and that's you, right? And what is significant about that? Sometimes we because it's so entrenched in us, right? Remember, the ego resides within us, but the ego is not us, right? So sometimes we have a difficult time separating that. Like, what is my thought? What is the light's thought, the thought of my soul versus the thought of the ego? So again, one of the beautiful things about studying Kabbalah in the Kabbalah Center is we do have a mentor and teacher system by which students regularly meet with a teacher. Why? Because my ego doesn't speak like your ego. So I might see something that you don't. I might be able to show you another perspective that you didn't see before, right? If you think about it, we never see ourselves as we are. You can see yourself in a mirror. It's the wrong way around, for goodness sake, right? You look at yourself on camera, boom, you're like 10 pounds heavier. We can't even see the back of ourselves. Like, we never see ourselves as we really are. So the importance and the beauty of being in a spiritual community and having a mentor or a teacher is they can see angles of ourselves that we would never be able to see otherwise. And that is a very important aspect of support in our spiritual work.
Yes, and that's also one thing I love about the Kabbalah, the community and the guidance and the mentoring. Teacher Ria, you've studied Kabbalah for a long time, you've practiced this and taught this. What is the greatest challenge really that you've faced in this path? Like, what was something that you can say that, oh, I've faced this challenge and I'm finished and I've gone through this and I've learned a lot.
Wow. I wouldn't say I've finished anything, right? Because Kabbalistically, if you finish what you came to correct, you no longer need to be in the physical world. So I have a lot of things to work on. But I think one thing that the study of Kabbalah has really helped me with is my certainty. Right? What does certainty mean? Certainty means that no matter what a situation looks like, no matter how difficult, painful, frustrating, scary, seemingly never-ending a situation looks, if we have certainty, we know that it is actually a gift from the universe, because that person, that situation, whatever it may be, is pushing me towards being the perfected version of myself, right? So, you know, when I was experiencing a financial challenge, I felt like, why is this happening to me? You can imagine all the drama that comes with that, and this is unfair, and all of that. But then I realized, no, the universe is teaching me this lesson because the universe wants me to be more responsible with my energy, right? Wants me to be more responsible with the energy of money. wants me to be more meticulous, at the same time more sharing. And there's like these huge lessons that came with that, right? So as painful as that situation was, I learned so much from it, right? And I'm much better now at protecting my financial energy. I feel like I could do it better, and I look forward to doing it better. But like, that was a huge lesson.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that there's a lot of people who are seeking guidance, and because they're like newly entering into the spiritual path, or they're speaking spirit, that money sometimes they think is not discussed in a spiritual setting. But as you mentioned, like Kabbalah and the tools of Kabbalah have helped you also like to get the lesson from the situation. And I'm supposing that after that lesson, that there was like transformation of the situation as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I also want to add that speaking about money in a spiritual setting is not a bad thing at all, okay? For several reasons. First of all, we are physical beings with physical needs. Therefore, we do need physicality, right? And usually you can buy physical things with money. Money, you need to understand is it good or bad? Depends what you do with it. It depends on the consciousness you have with it, right? I have 500 million pesos. Am I going to build a casino, or am I going to build a school, right? Am I going to build a brothel, or am I going to build a hospital, right? Money in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's energy, and it depends how you use that energy. And it's not a bad thing to talk about, as long as we also know that it's not the be all and end all of happiness, right? There's a lot of people in the world who have acquired immense wealth, and they are some of the most unhappy people in the world.
Yes, and I believe that like in the Philippines right now, that's what we really need to talk about, to have this kind of money consciousness and wealth consciousness, where it's not just attached to money, because wealth is just not just about money, and wealth is also can be used for the fulfillment of higher things. Right. Thank you, Teacher Ria. Like, I know that Kabbalah has, can all walks of life can go to Kabbalah, from a farmer to an executive. Like, you can go to Kabbalah and learn because the same like thing, although you have faced different circumstances. Like the spiritual principles are universal. But personally, like, what is close to your heart in terms of like when we're teaching Kabbalah? What is something that's close to your heart that you said, oh, I'm doing this, I'm teaching Kabbalah, or I'm doing this thing and practicing Kabbalah for this like primary purpose?
Oh, okay. I think it would be my family. Like, if you've been to my classes, I do tend to talk about my kids a lot because they are huge spiritual teachers, right? If you've ever been around children, like sometimes the things they say, a lot of the time, even unintentionally, carry such amazing messages within them. Children also are a wonderful reflection of their parents. So sometimes my children will say something and I'd be like, I know they got that from me. I didn't like how that sounded, but I know where it came from, So I study a lot because I feel that Kabbalah has really helped me as a parent, right? Children don't come with any kind of manual. I mean, you can take classes and you can read books, but each child is so individual. And individually they don't come with a manual. So when I started studying Kabbalah, my daughter was about 3 years old. And so, I was really, and she was talking and, they're very precocious. And I thought, wow, I need help to deal with this. This is an amazing kid, but I want to be sure that I'm doing it right. And Kabbalah really helps me tremendously with parenting because it is the most fulfilling and yet most challenging job I have.
Yes, I would like also to tell a story. The Kabbalah books that I brought home, every time my father visits, he reads them. It's amazing. Yeah.
Good for
But,
him.
so I was just saying, like your family, your kids, and parenting is something that is close to your heart. And how I see is that, like, yes, it is people who are good, like parents, people who are more who work on being better version of themselves as their parents produce better children, or healthy, happy children as well. So is there any message that you want to say to parents? Because most parents right now, they're so caught up with their work, providing money for day-to-day routine, and they're like putting studying spirituality, studying going spiritual to something, they're putting it aside, and they forget, like, that it's something that they can also get nourished by, to give to the family. So maybe you can inspire the parents who are listening out there, who may benefit from studying Kabbalah.
Wow. Where do I start? We were talking earlier about how buttons get pushed, right? And usually our buttons get pushed by the people who are closest to us, either emotionally or physically, right? Because we need to be tested every day, right? To see if we can overcome whatever aspect of our negativity, and to give us opportunities to share as well, right? If we existed in a vacuum, if we were alone on a mountaintop, there's not much opportunity to share there. And what I realized is, whenever I see something in one of my kids that really I don't like, that really annoys me, right? I have to remember that, and we say this a lot in the center, if you spot it, you got it, right? Which means if there's something about another person's behavior that really irks you, you have an aspect of that in yourself. And really the best way we can help our children, let's say there's a child who whines and just complains a lot all day, right? And this really irks the parent. I guess it would irk most parents. What does it mean? It means that somehow, some way, we also complain and whine constantly. Maybe not outwardly, maybe not through the things that we say, but certainly in our thoughts, we could be complaining all the time, right? What does that mean? It means that if we want to change that behavior in the child, we need to change it in ourselves first, right? So I need to catch myself. Where am I complaining? Where am I whining? Where do I have a sense of entitlement? Where do I feel like people should serve me, right? And when I transform that, you'll see how it will change in the child, right? Because, on a more quantum level, you have to understand that when we do our spiritual work and we overcome aspects of our negativity, we draw down energy and spiritual light for other people in the world with that same issue to overcome that issue in themselves, right? So if I have an issue with jealousy and I'm able to overcome that, it's not just good for me, it's good for the rest of the world, because I awaken an energy in the world that helps or supports other people overcome their jealousy, right? And look, we always say that there's no such thing as I don't have time. If you say I don't have time, it means it's not important, right? For me, the reason I make time for spirituality is because it helps me be better in all the other aspects of my life. Whether I'm doing my television job, I'm doing the parenting job, the wife job, the housekeeping job, the, Kabbalah teacher job. If I don't feed myself spiritually and I don't, continue my study, my understanding, my connection, my meditation and prayer to the source, then I'm not much good to anyone, and the other facets of my life. I want to come to those different parts of my life where I'm charged with spiritual energy so I can give energy and I can make good decisions and say the right things and do the right things and be in the right place.
I'm taking all those pros of wisdom, and it really resonates with the heart because you know, studying spirituality, as I see, as you say, is some kind of nourishment, and it's like the parent is a channel of blessing to their children, and also not only as a parent but also in other roles of in your life. To get the spiritual nourishment is something essential. It's not a privilege, rather a necessity. And in your story, I've learned that your child is the one who triggered the process because you wanted to share to your child, and also until now is teaching you. So that's
Constantly, the kids will teach you every day, and they will show you so beautifully the things you need to improve on.
Yes. So there is such a blessing. Thank you, Teacher Ria. Do you have anything that you want to share? What's happening with Kabbalah? I know you have a class starting October 15th. Is that right?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. So, you know, several times a year we run our foundations course, which I mentioned earlier. It's called The Power of Kabbalah 1. It's a 10-week course. So it's an hour every week for 10 weeks. And every week we tackle a different Kabbalistic principle or Kabbalistic tool. And you come to understand it. We do workshops in the class. And then you go home and then you test it out. You know, something we always say in the center is don't believe anything we tell you, right? You need to try it out yourself. And this is how something becomes your own personal truth. It's because you've tried it yourself. So we are giving a free intro on September 24 at 7:30 p.m. here in the Kabbalah Center at the Rockwell Garage in Rockwell along Australia Street. That intro is free, so you just need to bring your lovely selves and an open mind and an open heart. And that first hour that we'll spend together is actually class 1 of the Kabbalah 1 course, right? So it's free. If you like what you hear, you are interested, you feel like, you know, this is something that could really add value to your life, then you can proceed to take the rest of the other 9 classes. And the fee for that is 8,250 pesos, right? So that's like barely a Starbucks a class. And so you get to be in the classes, but you also become what's called a Kabbalah community member for 3 months. So as you know, membership has its privileges, and that includes 10% off at our bookstore, discounts on in-center classes, and you also have full access to Kabbalah.com. So Kabbalah.com is a huge mega resource of Kabbalistic wisdom. There's a ton of articles and a lot of videos and classes that you can watch. There's also some events that are live streamed, so you would have all access to that for 3 months.
Yes, and also for those who are not in Manila, you can also take the class online. Is that right, Teacher Ria?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, thank God for technology. It allows us to be in many places at once. So, you know, like in the past, we've had students from Cebu and Davao, even from Singapore and Indonesia stream into our class.
And
so,
Hong Kong.
You know, yes, Hong Kong as well. Japan even. So, you know, if you're in the province, if you're somewhere ideally, you know, close to our time zone, then absolutely you are welcome to stream the class live. And also, you know, I mean, 10 weeks is a big commitment. So every class is recorded. So within about 48 hours of the class, you'll be sent a link and you can rewatch the class, or, you know, maybe you were absent and you can watch it, you know, so you can catch up. And the classes are so packed with information and wisdom. It's like, even if you were there, like, it's a good idea to listen to the classes again.
Yes, and in my experience, I couldn't get enough. So every class was something that I look forward to. Like, I make space because it's myself, and I learned a lot from it. Yes.
Yeah.
So inviting everyone. Yeah, you can go to Kabbalah Philippines in Facebook. We have a Facebook page, also in KabbalahPhilippines.com or Kabbalah.com.
Yeah, you can find us there. We also have an Instagram account, which is Kabbalah_Philippines. So we post a lot of our events and bookstore promos and little snippets of wisdom there as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay.
I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible on September 24. Please come. We would love to see you.
Yes. I highly encourage this class because I took the class up to 3, and I wish there was 4 and 5, and just so much to learn.
We might be doing a Power of Kabbalah 4 soon, so something to
really
and meditate for.
Sign me up. Sign me up. Okay.
Yeah. So instead of doing a meditation, what I thought I would do is just share a little piece of wisdom, right?
Okay.
Teaser, and we will talk about this in the intro. So, I said after every class, you come home with a nugget of wisdom that you can actually use. So one of the things that we teach early on in Kabbalah is learning to take a pause, right? So remember, I was talking earlier about knee-jerk reactions, being reactive, getting angry, yelling at people, being jealous, being sad, feeling like a victim. Those are all forms of reactivity, right? And we know that because it's a reaction. It doesn't take any thought. It doesn't take any effort. It just comes spontaneously, right? And a lot of us, we live our lives like that. It's kind of robotic, right? So how do we break that cycle? How can we take a situation and actually inject light into it, right? We need to restrict that knee-jerk reaction, that reactive behavior, whether, as I said, it's anger, it's jealousy, it's gossiping, it's feeling like a victim, if it's constantly being sad. I mean, there's so many different forms of it, right? So when we're faced in a situation and we're about to yell at someone who's really pushed our buttons, the Kabbalists say the first spiritual step you take is you pause and you say, what a pleasure.
What a
right? What a pleasure. What do you mean? This guy's pushing my buttons. He's making me so mad. How can this be a pleasure? Right? Shift your consciousness. Pause. What a pleasure. I don't understand it right now, but I know this person, this situation is giving me an opportunity to shift something in my life, giving me an opportunity to reveal light in my life rather than cover it up with more darkness. And if in that moment I pause, I say that, I shift my consciousness, and I am actually able to control myself and stop myself from yelling at this person, and I speak to them with more kindness and gentleness and respect and mercy, the movie plays out differently, right? The movie plays out much more differently than if we had lost it. So that's one thing you guys can take with you today is if something is pushing your buttons, the traffic is just too much for you to handle, your mother-in-law said something that offended you, pause. What a pleasure. The universe is giving me a gift to grow spiritually and transform something in my life.
Thank you, Teacher Ria. That's a very, very inspiring and insightful lesson for all of us, for especially today when all the things around us just triggers us, and it just comes on us, and that is something that I've also learned from Kabbalah together with the proactive formula. And you guys, if you want to know what that is, you go to Kabbalah and study it. It's something that will change your life. So thank you, Teacher Ria, for this wonderful opportunity, for your time, and more power to Kabbalah, and hope to see you soon.
For sure, I will see you soon. Thank you so much for this opportunity for us to be able to share what we do at the Kabbalah Center, May. I really appreciate it.
Your support goes a long way. Liking and sharing this video will enable us to continue doing our work in featuring awakened souls with an important message